Good evening. Hi, everybody. This is the April 30th, 2018 meeting of Development Governmental Relations Subcommittee of the Holyoke City Council. If you just turn off your cell phones, that'd be great. And I'm the chairman. Mike Sullivan's with me. Josie Valentine is on my left. Juan Essen Burgos is in the chairs. We have a pretty full agenda, and so knowing that I thought we were going to get I think this is a really nice crowd, so thank you all for coming here. I'm pretty sure I know why you're all here, and I'm really pleasantly surprised to see everyone turn out with this kind of force, and it's great, because I thought this was going to be a really good hearing. The gentleman for Mass DOT, who's been here twice before, he was here in 2014 and 2016, and really he's under no obligation to come, but it's wonderful that he does come. His name is Richard Massey, and he's a civil engineer with Mass DOT. I am shocked that he is not here right this second, and I had put him first. Yeah, he wouldn't worry. He's not worried about a crowd like this. He's a complete professional, but I'm sure he'd be welcome to hear your comments. I will. He did forward to me a summary of the various road projects of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, the various projects in the city of Holyoke that are in, certain stages of design. Of course, I think the bulk of people here are interested in the reconstruction of the I-91 interchange, exit 17 and Route 141, as am I. And I have a lot of questions from the ward councilor. And I'm sure you have your own questions. So I could do it one of two ways. I could go ahead and take something out of order in the hopes that he's going to come, or we could try to table this to May 21st. So this committee will meet again May 21st. So I don't know what the feeling is. If people want to stay here for a little bit and watch the show for a little while, okay. If you do, yeah, this is a little civics lesson. So if you want to call it that. So I sent Richard an email, and we confirmed it. We confirmed it a month ago and 2 weeks ago, and I just sent him an email now with my cell phone. So if my phone goes off, then I'm the exception to my rule. So with that being said, so he really doesn't give any details in his summary. It's really just dollar amounts is basically it. So I don't really have any details, and I know everyone here is probably very interested in it, but I'm sorry, I really can't control it. So that's where we are. So I'm going to go. If we could just take up the first agenda item, please, and then we'll move out of order to take Attorney Barnes. Okay.
Take item 1 off the table.
Second. On the motion, all in favor? Aye. That's up to the prior meeting minutes. We did receive them. I reviewed them. It was a summary of our March 26th meeting, which I thought was pretty well done. If people want to table this because they haven't reviewed it, that's their call. But
I would make a motion to table just because we received them this afternoon.
okay.
I'll second that.
Okay, on the motion table, in favor? Aye. Okay.
Aye.
So we'll table it to the next meeting. And then, Ryan, if you just put the meeting minutes on the next meeting's agenda. Crystal, are you ready to go? Sure. Okay. So if we could get a motion to take number 8 and 9 off the table, please.
Motion to take item 8 and 9 as a package and off the table.
Second.
On the motion, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, Crystal, why don't you come on in?
Yeah.
Grab a microphone. or the city council receive let me strike that, law department issue an update on the city's receivership program by the end of March 2018 and forward the same to the committee for a hearing sometime in April. Oh, we just made it, wow. The law department should plan to provide a regular update every 6 months. And then the second one is order the city council receive communication from the city's law department regarding receivership. So it's the same order. Crystal's provided to us, where are they? Right here. The mic. Pass that over. And if you give that to Councilor Weinerson Burgos, please, that'd be great. For those who aren't familiar with it, the city of Springfield about 10 years ago started a receivership program, and it's a function of Mass General Law, and it really allowed the municipalities to have some teeth to go ahead and not necessarily go through the tax title process to get a dilapidated house back on the tax rolls, but it allowed the municipality through the Western Division of the Housing Court to ultimately appoint what's known as a receiver. And a receiver is a person, well, I guess we're all familiar with receivers because we have a receiver in the school department now. So it's the same concept, except this is with private housing. So there would be an instance that a perfect example would be one of the first ones we did in the city is in Ward 3, is a 75 Elmwood Avenue, and the house was in total disrepair, had code violations, non-payment of taxes, and the city having to go ahead and go through tax title and go through the long process of filing all sorts of papers in land court and then waiting several years. This is more of an expedited process. And so I'm happy to report that Holyoke now has a receivership program. Councilor McGee, Councilor Jordan, myself, Councilor Bresnahan were really spearheaded this whole thing, and a great deal of thanks goes to our former solicitor, Cara Cunha. So now we have with us Attorney Crystal Barnes from the City of Holyoke's Law Department. And Crystal, thank you for coming, preparing this. Why don't you tell us what the report says and where we are in the receivership program?
Sure. So I provided two different updates. One is more of just photos and not necessarily something that's strictly in receivership, but maybe something that we used the same code enforcement process, or that we had started as a receivership project, but then turned into the owners taking it on or a bank taking it on. The other one is more of an update of what we actually do have in receivership, the stages it's in. There's actually some, even from this update, we actually have a couple of new receiverships, so that'll be in our update come October. So we seem to have really revamped our receivership program as well as our code enforcement. We have weekly meetings. There's a subcommittee of our problem property group meeting that is strictly for code enforcement matters. Myself, Sean Gonsalves, Damien, Cody from our building department, as well as Kevin Kavanagh from the fire department. We all meet weekly to discuss current projects that are happening, new projects that are coming up, where we want to really target, whether it be that there's already current projects happening, so it makes sense to keep going down that road, or if we've gotten tenant complaints or neighbor complaints, et cetera. So a couple of the major ones that I can point out: 137 Northeast Street. This was a receivership. Saw Construction LLC actually completed this one, and I do believe there's now a homeowner here. So generally at the end of a receivership, they are allowed to enforce their priority lien. They actually have a super priority over everything except for municipal liens, whether that be fines, violations, or municipal taxes. So a mortgage would get wiped out as well as any other lien sitting on the property. And normally at auction, a receiver about 90% of the time is going to end up with that property, and they will rent it to tenants either during the project or right after. Some of them go on to actually sell it post-auction procedure. But 137 Northeast Street was one where he foreclosed, and actually there's now a homeowner there, and she is delighted to live there from what we hear. 235 Oak Street. This one was before my time, but as you can see from the pictures, a huge improvement, both exterior and interior. 65 Waldo Street, this was one where instead of actually taking it to auction, we listed it on MLS and went straight to a real estate sale. So towards the end, it was kind of a cost-benefit analysis of some of the upgrades that were done that may not have normally been a code violation, but in order to list it for sale and really get a top dollar, it was better off to do those. So again, you can see some of the before and afters there. That was a big project. That was a Whitman Properties project. 275 Appermont Highway is actually an ongoing project in our office. This one we had brought about assuming that a receiver was going to be involved, but the owners actually had some family that came out and assisted. So as you can see, it started as basically a hoarding situation, and then his son came out and helped him clean up this property, and really quite literally took bulldozers to the exterior property. The inside is completely cleaned out. The owners were given alternative housing, which has now turned into permanent housing and probably a much better location for them. So this is kind of still in process. We are continuing with the code enforcement here to hopefully get a homeowner here, possibly put a new house on the lot. It's about 4 acres. It's a beautiful property out there. So this one's kind of still in process, but not necessarily running the usual receivership avenue. 393, 399 Main Street. I'm sure people are familiar. There was a fire there. This started as a receivership project. And the receiver ended up cutting a deal with the bank so that the bank actually transferred it over straight to the receiver so that she could continue work outside of the scope of court. And it allows for a little less oversight and a little more work to be done. They are required to file reports with the court every 8 weeks, and sometimes that can get tedious for a contractor that really just wants to buckle down. But this project is actually almost complete. I walked through about a month ago, and as far as I could tell, most of the units were done. It was a lot of the common areas that were being brought back into code compliance. There was, I believe she said, like 4 or 5 layers of flooring just in the hallways, and so they'd tear out one floor, and you could see like the ages in the building depending on what the floor looked like. All the porches on the outside got redone. The roof was getting redone. So this is going to be a great project, especially since it's a combined use, so those storefronts in the bottom will hopefully be the last project that the receiver here tackles once all the units are put back into use. But that's about 14 units that we're getting back on the market. 71 Berkshire Street, this is a single family, which we don't see a lot of. This one is almost done. We're just in some last conversations with the bank. They are actually the ones completing this project. So this is another one that receivership really didn't happen, but it was that initial threat that we would put a receiver in that got the bank actually working with us, which is an alternative sometimes to the owner taking over. So this one's actually almost done, a few permits to close out, but this one will be foreclosed on by the bank and then put up for sale. So this is another different way that we go about it. 190 Essex Street, this one was actually just completed. The documents all got recorded, and I don't know if the receiver plans to sell it or keep it and rent it. I'm not really sure, but another big project. 294 Cherry Street is another one that was just completed. Not really a huge project in terms of what we sometimes can see, but certainly an interesting project. They all are, but this is another smaller home. Again, not like, you know, a lot of times we see multifamily, or even now we're getting into more of the dual use buildings and working with some of those. So I also brought in, that was more for, I think, the bigger pictures, the before and afters are sometimes more fun to see than just all the words as far as an update goes. There's some prior updates that you would have received back in July of 2017 that I printed and should be up on the table, and then that finishes where my update starts. So that one should have 137 Northeast Street on the top, which was active receivership at the time. Like I had mentioned, that one's actually now completed. So the current update should have 1373 through 1377 Dwight Street on top. And I don't know if you want me to go through all the properties, or if you guys just want to take a look and then peruse on your own, or if you have any questions about any of them in particular.
No, I think you did very well. I'm very pleased with, but it really gives us all a sense of, I mean, there's at least 24 properties on here that, but for this program, would be floundering somewhere in tax title world. So now there looks like they're going forward. I would also say it points out that the receivership programs hit on every ward in the city as well. So I don't think one ward's been has avoided this. We're joined by Councilor Tallman, Councilor Roman, welcome. And councilors who were running a little bit late, we anticipated having Mr. Massey of Mass DOT here. He's now 15 minutes late. I'm going to guess that he's not. He didn't contact me, so I'm going to guess that he's not going to come tonight. I'm a little surprised by that because he really is a professional. So for him not to appear at this, after providing to me a pretty detailed report of all the projects in the city, for him not to come. I will say this, I did see on channel 22 or 40, maybe it's 40, that there's a big hearing in Blandford tonight, so maybe about the exit, the new exit that they're thinking about constructing on the Mass Pike, but I'm not going to give him an excuse, so I'm just very surprised. But that's just so let's just get to this one, and we can make a decision after we get to this order. The councilors have questions or comments for Crystal Barnes, Councilor Valentin?
Thank you. Thank you for the update, Crystal. And I guess it's more of a question as I sit here listening to the update on the receivership cases. I'm also thinking about the properties that we've been able to auction in the last couple of auctions, and how I think it would be helpful to, and I know that's more the treasurer's office, but I guess I'll file an order on that. But it has been helpful in the past where I have received updates from the legal department in terms of kind of problem properties. So I do appreciate the update tonight. But I guess unless you want to comment anything on the auction properties, I'll go ahead and file an order on that, because I think it would be helpful to get updates on that as well.
I don't have, so there's actually a 2-page spreadsheet that we keep on all problem properties. I know that this was more focused on receiverships, but a lot of what we do is just code enforcement in general. At any given time, like I have 4 or 5 cases on this Friday. I generally, my norm is about 5 different cases on every Friday right now. And certainly it's not all receivership. It's quite a bit of problem properties just in general. So that would be a much lengthier update to keep up with those properties. But as far as the auctions have gone, we're starting to see more of a trend where the auctions have not been very beneficial. What happens is somebody will come in, bid a low price, and then just sit on it. And we end up actually doing a lot of code enforcement with those properties to try and get those people who purchased at a low price to actually do something with them. Very seldom are they actually buying them and doing anything that would, A, even bring it back into code compliance if that was the issue, or B, just do something and not leave it completely vacant. I don't have addresses off the top of my head without having that full spreadsheet, but I do know that there's at least a handful of auction properties from the last set that we are actually now doing code enforcement with. And we're finding that to be a problem right now. So we're trying to find possibly some alternatives to that auction.
Yeah, I mean, I'm thinking just off the top of my head, the corner of Beach and Cabot was one of those auction houses that's across from the beautiful home that was built by One Holyoke, which was that awful vacant lot. And now, you still have the eyesore across the street. And I know it was an auction, and I've been asking about it, and it's, we're waiting for a plan from the person who bought the property, but it's, the time frame is not beneficial. So
do you know the address off the top of your head?
I can look it up while we're talking.
I know
Thank
like
you.
numbers and streets, they'll strike a bell, but as far as like a general corner, I wouldn't be positive on it.
All right, I'll look for it. Thank you.
Sure.
Actually, that was a pretty telling comment right there, so I really appreciate you letting us know that when you just have an auction off a property and say, fly little bird, how helpful is that? But when you have the court involved and then task force and all these other people looking, it makes a big difference. So again, I'm just very, very proud and pleased that we've got this receivership program up and running relative now, and especially relative to the auction. Councilor McGivern has joined us as well. Any other councilors have questions, comments? No, Crystal, I think we're pretty good on this. One thing, Crystal, just the list of members of the subcommittee. I think you said Captain Cavagnac, you said Sean, you said yourself, you said the building commissioner, and I think there was somebody I missed.
Chris Urchel from our office sometimes sits in, Leslie Burnell, she's from the building department as well, she sits in. Generally, Sean and Leslie are our inspectors, so when we're ready to either start a code enforcement, or if they just happen to have something that they want to see us take action on, then they go out and do inspections, or I schedule inspections for them to go, et cetera. Because I am in court every week, they need to keep up to date with what inspections the court requires or what I need from them so that we can stay up to date and that our court filings are done in a timely fashion with the most recent updates. I do know we are almost working in real time so that when an issue comes up, we can actually get it right into court. For a little while there, we were backed up trying to play catch up with all the properties that we had going on. But I know some of the counselors have reached out at various times with an issue that they have in their ward, and I'd certainly encourage just to send an email, and we bring it up in committee every week. And whether it's just to get an inspection done, we can certainly do that. Or if you'd like to see, more enforcement, we're ready, willing, and able to.
Well, it's not even a bad, that's a words to the wise for even for the public. So if the public knows of a house that's abandoned, if the public knows of a house with code violations, that a call to your city councilor, or a call to the Board of Health, a call to the building commissioner, could very well trigger a receivership process and get what was an eyesore next to you or in the vicinity into hands of somebody and the receiver, Crystal, is somebody who's been approved by the law department. Is that how it?
So we actually get our receivership list from the court. They're actually taking applications in June or July of this year. I would certainly recommend that if contractors in the city want to start getting involved in this process, to check out that application process. The clerk's office can assist in getting those applications. There's about 70 receivers on our list currently, and it's a completely randomized process. The only caveat to that is occasionally we do have either a larger project or something where it just makes economical sense. Either a receiver has a project right next door or across the street, and obviously it makes more sense for them to have a view of all their projects in one location. So we might offer a specific project to a receiver under that. But the court vets them, checks their finances, makes sure that they're licensed. There is an insurance policy that has to be put on each property that makes it so that there's liability insurance throughout the project. So the court handles all of that. In addition to, counselors reaching out or public, we've actually found that some of our projects come from just us driving into work in the morning, and you see a tarp that's been sitting there for days on end, and it's like, all right, what's going on with this property? And send out the inspectors and come to find out, it's been sitting there for a while. And sometimes it's just getting them to work on their permit that they've taken out, where it's just stalled out. So sometimes it's just enough to push people. We don't always necessarily threaten them in court. Sometimes it's just, hey guys, this project's been sitting for a while. Can you get working on it?
And I think you said that. You just have Damocles sword over them with the receivership, and then you give them both. Councilor Valentin?
Thank you. So just to update you, it's 229 Beach Street, which is the corner of Beach and Cabot. And the last update I got from the treasurer's office was August 14, 2017, saying that the buyer had submitted the rehab plans after they had asked for an extension, but that they didn't meet the requirements. So they were waiting for kind of a revision. And after that, there was nothing else. So 229 Beach was on that auction list.
I'll add it to our meeting. It doesn't ring any bells, so I know it's not in code enforcement right now, but I'll certainly,
It should be.
I'll have it looked at.
Thank you so much.
I know they're at a conference this week, so this week we don't have a meeting, but
That's
next
okay.
week.
Thank you, Crystal.
Absolutely.
Okay, so I'll just get a motion, this is complied with.
So moved.
On the motion, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so order's complied with, thank you. Just go back to regular order, why don't you just make a motion, take two off the table, please?
So moved.
On the motion, take two off the table, all in favor? Aye. Okay, so that was an order to, thank you, Crystal, to invite Mass DOT. This is be their third meeting. They're clearly not gonna make it. He's not replied to me, and he has, let me see if he sent me an email. Yeah, they're not Mass DOT. No, he's not replied. So to the public, I apologize, but there's not really much I can do about it if somebody doesn't come. So what I'm gonna do is reach out to Mr. Massey again, when I get back to my office tomorrow, and I'll just tell him that we're, a little disappointed, but this committee will meet again May 21st. It will meet for the last time this fiscal year on June 11th. So those are gonna be the last two times we're gonna meet this fiscal year. We won't meet again until the fall, so we don't meet in July and August. So either May 21st or June 11th. I do have, and I know Mrs. Florio said that the website isn't the greatest, but if anybody wants to reach out to me directly, my email's on the city website. It's bartley4ward3@gmail.com, or you can just call me 531-2213. I'd be happy to answer your questions, such as whenever I get new information. And the only other alternative is to check holyoke.org when we reschedule a meeting. I know it wasn't on the list view, but we are subject to open meeting law, and it was put on the, Councilor McGee's joined us, it was put on the calendar view, so the meeting was posted, and we'll try to do it again. So I think we're just going to table this for now. I do thank you all for coming, and we'll see what happens next time, okay? So sorry about that. So if I get a motion table, please. On the motion, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thank you. All right, we'll just take a 2-minute break. Oh, no, he hasn't replied. Oh, no doubt. Mr. Massey's at Mass DOT District 2, is in Northampton? Yes. No, his office is Northampton, on King Street. Okay, so if I could get a motion, let's see, we could take, let me just mark my notes here. Thank you to the committee, so this is complied with. I think we can take up items 3, 4, 5, 6 as a package, please.
Second.
On the motion to suspend the rules, take 3, 4, 5, and 6 up at the package. All in favor? Aye. Okay, so let's see here. Ryan's got me organized pretty well. Thank you, Ryan. So we have a communication from the mayor dated February of 2018. It's a proposal for the former Lynch School property. Item 4 is a communication from the OPED director, Marcus Barrero, information on the sale process. Item 5 is communication from Lori Belanger, dated February 23rd, recommendation of Colvest for development of 1575 Northampton Street. And the last one is an order that the City Council, in accordance with Chapter 30B, vote to accept an offer of Colvest to purchase a parcel of land and building located at 1575 Northampton Street for $250,000. And with us, we have the OPED Director, Marcos Marrero. Marcos, why don't you come in and join us, please? So, Marcos, before we get to the recommended proposal, why don't we, okay, great. Why don't we first kind of, go back and take a Reader's Digest version of this long history of 1575 Northampton Street. So we had before us, we had, oh, it just reminds me, oh, Councilor Oman, congratulations. I forgot to say, that just reminded me, hey.
He left his phone, look at that.
Hey, Councilor Oman, congratulations. This is what you have to look forward to.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, let me shake your hand.
Thank you,
Well done, okay.
Welcome to engagement where your phone
so,
comes to you.
So, yeah, Helene, yeah. Well, just for those watching at home, and we just have a lot of noise in the hallway, and I don't like to close the door completely, but we've got to close most of the way, and still pretty noisy out there. So Marcos, so 1575 Northampton Street, everybody knows it as the John J. Lynch School, and it's attached to Anniversary Field. It's at a really prominent corner of the city on Route 5, where we had hoped to hear from Mass DOT about exit 17, but we didn't hear from them tonight, so it would have tied in kind of nicely. But we'll hopefully we can schedule Mass DOT in May or June. And so Marcos, a few years ago we had a potential school. The Paulo Freire School of Justice was going to rent it. This board denied that proposal. Then a few years after that, we had a group called Frontier Development come in looking for a zone change. Ultimately, the zone change, I don't think it came, did we actually vote on the zone change, or was it withdrawn before we had a vote, Marcos?
It was withdrawn.
Okay.
They had a strong sense that the votes weren't there.
Okay, so the company out called Frontier Development, I think it's from Florida, but I'm not sure. And they proposed what looked like it was going to be a drugstore, a national chain drugstore, and there wasn't a lot of warmth in the room relative to that, and so they needed a zone change. And Marcos is going to talk to us about what the current zone is, and now Marcos, we had and thanks to you and thanks to the mayor as well for staying on point on this and not letting it slip into oblivion, because it really is such a prominent corner of the city. I think we can all pretty well agree on that. And so the city put it out to Lori Belanger and your team, Marcos, put it out to bid. And one of the things which we need to put before the public is who are the bidders. And so that's where you're going to take over, Marcos. You wrote a communication to us that who the bidders were, and then that's okay. So, thank you. This is, Juan, the most junior member of the Supreme Court, when they knock on the door, when there's the most junior member has to get up and open the door. So sadly, that's your role as the most junior member of this. Not quite as well. I'm not comparing this to the Supreme Court, so I don't want any hate texts about that either. Please. So Marcos, why don't you just tell us who the four bidders were, and then tell us maybe the committee that reviewed it, and then get us to the point where Colvest is in front of us now. If you don't have to go into gory detail, but if you want to tell us a little bit about it, that'd be helpful.
Sure, and so we're a little early, so John is in here with my material, so I'm going to go freestyle by
John's in the
memory.
hallway.
Oh, he's in the hallway? Yeah. Can I go get him?
You can. Yeah, I'm not
I
gonna
could
be-
probably get you 95% there by memory.
Marcos,
but-
I'm not going to. Here comes
John, I was about to freestyle without documents. It's fine. The only thing I'll add to the long and colorful history of the site was the first RFP for John J. Lynch. I believe was put out in 2009 or 2010. Right.
Yeah, tell me about
And
that.
it was specifically geared towards medical uses, and it got 0 responses. So that was the first iteration.
Okay, so
And
this now would be round 4.
right.
Okay.
Hard to keep track of the rounds, but yes.
And John J. Lynch School closed, when did it close, Pete?
Around 2006, 7?
2007? 2009?
12 years ago.
Okay. All right, so I just want to get the history straight. Okay, go ahead, Marco, sorry about that.
Yep. So we got, we put it out to, for a request for proposals, which as I stated in my memo is different than a bid for the highest bidder, which is important in this case as it's been in other real estate transactions, which is the monetary amount isn't the driver, it's us understanding that it is the best project available to the city. We put this RFP out in the Central Register in Massachusetts, which is the primary vehicle where most people will find or look for projects in the state. We put it out on LoopNet, which is a premier real estate search online. The New England Journal of Real Estate, which anyone looking for a real estate project in New England will find. Area real estate brokers in the community at large. I'm sure I'm missing like 2 or 3, and John can fill you in on that. We received in this latest proposal 4, and I should say we had to run 2 RFPs. The first time at the end of 2017, we actually rejected all proposals. We didn't feel like any of the proposals had enough information for us to make a decision. And so we reissued the RFP, clarifying a couple of things there, just so that everyone would come in. 2 of the, I think we got 4 proposals in the first round, right? 2 of them resubmitted, which was Colvest and First Hartford. 2 proposals that did not resubmit. One was for a school, right? That was related to the same company as the center school. If my memory serves me right, their budget was not realistic. And for any proposal that's a school, we actually have some pretty good data from MSBA, as the council knows. The city's in the midst of a process to determine where and what to build as a new middle school. So the state, Massachusetts State Board of Board of what? I forget what it stands for. But they finance the schools, and so they've helped us look at Lynch as a possibility, and this is in the many millions of dollars, upwards of $20 million rehab for a school. So when we get proposals that are much less than $1 million, it's just highly questionable and not realistic for us. That was one of the proposals. The other one was for a treatment center.
Addiction treatment center.
It was an partially inpatient and partially outpatient treatment center. It was a great concept on paper, but there was actually no real business plan, and they could not show that they had a working team. It was pre-startup even, so there wasn't any good confidence that team would actually be able to move the project forward in any timely fashion. Certainly not within 2 years. We reissued the RFP, and as I said, 2 of the 4 resubmitted, which was Colvest Group, which they'll they'll provide the details on their proposal in a little bit. But in essence, it is a plaza anchored by a bank. They do have a lead on a bank tenant. And an additional building which would house, it would be flexible, the amount of tenants they could have. They could have either a large tenant or several smaller ones. They have flexibility on that. Their total square footage was that 18,000?
About 18 to 25,000 square feet.
18 to 25,000 square feet, exactly. The bank would have a drive-through as well. First Hartford, in the first round, they didn't detail that much, but in their interview, it made clear that the primary tenants that they would seek and they work with is same national pharmacy chain that Frontier had dealt with, as well as some auto use, gasoline stations, which was something that we felt strongly we did not want to pursue, because what we want is to have a project and close on this, not roll the dice on something that didn't seem to have wide community support, no matter how much money was being put on the table, because that money was just hypothetical if it wasn't gonna materialize. So First Hartford resubmitted, but in this occasion they actually didn't submit anything. They had two pieces of paper. One piece of paper was 4 bullet points saying that we will develop whatever the community wants, and their second page was just a list of projects that they've done before. So for me, I'm not going to stake my credibility in front of the city council with four bullet points. I can't present that as a credible development plan. The other two was a school, this time a different school. I forget the name of the group.
The group was Iconic Capital out of New
Iconic
York.
Capital, and this was for it was for one of the charter schools.
Paulo Freire.
Oh, well, there you go. It comes back full circle. It was for Paulo Freire Charter School as well. Again, we didn't think that the budget for rehabilitation was realistic. It was significantly more than the different school that had submitted the first time around. And when I say first time around, I'm talking about the last couple of months. But it was still far short of what we knew to be necessary. And the timeline was so close, as in they had to have a certificate of occupancy by September, that we didn't really see how that could happen. The last one was a medical marijuana mall, which, as intriguing as that may sound, and the proponents had actually done this in Colorado quite successfully. We felt that there were two barriers. Number one, the property is not only not zoned for it, in terms of even if we were to expand the business highway zone, it would be very unlikely, it seems, that the business highway zone would garner the rezoning for something like that. So it would be completely speculative on our behalf if we put forward a proposal such as that one to the council. So we felt that with the objectives, the primary objectives of that we had before us, of increasing the tax base, having a project that was real, that could garner a zone change, and dispose of the property in a timely fashion, we felt that the Colvest proposal was solid. They had a clear understanding not only of what it would take to build their structures, but also understanding that there was going to be a significant amount of utility costs involved in this. Very likely off-site mitigation. We know it's a high traffic intersection, and that will play a part during permitting, and they understand that. They also have the plaza right across the street, so clearly they have a vested interest in having a quality project there that complements that plaza as they look forward into the future and their tenancy. The tenancy of their leases, many of them line up for 2020 for turnover. And they have a lot of experience in the region. One thing I'll say generally for any and all considerations of the site that we didn't talk about in the history is that any development that has to start off new has to take down the site, and that's a high cost proposition. We have conferred with demolition companies ourselves to get quotes, and it looks like over $1 million, $1 to $1.2 million just to take down the structure. And the reason for that is that there is a substance between the walls in Lynch School that is asbestos-containing material. So you can either take it out by hand, so you have a very high labor cost, and then demo the rest, as Councilor Sullivan knows, or you can just take it down by machine and just knock it all down, and then you have to treat all the brickwork as hot, and then you have to pay for disposal of the material. One way or another, there's not a whole heck of a lot of difference between one and the other. You're gonna pay substantially for it. So when you look at discrepancies in the offers, what you'll see is that the offers that we've gotten that are quite substantially higher will reflect tenants that can pay a higher price per square foot. And so national chains such as pharmacies are well known to be able to pay a premium on a cost per square foot. But that doesn't seem to be where a use that has wide community support, which is fine. That's why we do an RFP. We can decide what kind of development we want. But what that means is that if you're going to have a development that has tenants that will pay, I'll call it local lease rates, right? More along the $16 to $18 a square foot. Then you cannot put more, another $1.5 million on demo costs, plus $1.5 million of acquisition costs, and still expect the project to pan out. So as everything in life, there are trade-offs. And so what you'll see in the price differential in the offers, particularly when you compare Colvest and First Hartford, which are I would call them the more experienced developers in this round, and the more realistic developments, the big delta that you will see of $1 million reflects that. It reflects what is most likely the tenancy that First Hartford would have, which is, to us, was clear would be a national pharmacy chain. And what Colvest has, which would be more likely open to local companies. That's a very general overview. Obviously, we'll tend to any questions that you may have.
Yeah, Marco, so thank you I thought that was a really good summary. I'm sure there probably are some questions, but I'm just going to point out that, so, the First Hartford Corporation's bid was $1.25 million. The Iconic Capital, which is the charter school, was $750,000. And then the marijuana-themed mall from Trinidad Holdings, their bid was $550,000. One of the things I will mention about the Trinidad Holdings, as I read this note here, I missed it the first time around. Proposal included utilizing part of Anniversary Field for parking. So that's pretty well a non-starter as far as Trinidad Holdings goes.
Very true. That would not be legally possible for the city. They also wanted an exclusivity, exclusive rights as far as retail sales, and that wasn't something that we were willing to entertain.
Oh, okay. So I don't. I think your summary was, and that's why I really appreciated this. That's why I filed the order. But I appreciate the memo, Marcos. It was on point, cut right to the chase. Marcos, the committee reviewing this, who comprised this committee that reviewed the proposals?
Right, by memory, and you can check me if I miss anyone. I believe it was.
You just give titles still. You don't.
DPW superintendent.
Yeah, that's good.
Director of Planning and Economic Development, which is myself. Assistant Director of Economic Development, John. Development Specialist in my office, Sarah Myers-Imbler. Lori Belanger, of course, which is she's the Purchasing Director. Assistant City Solicitor Chris Urkel. Am I missing anyone? I think that's it.
And okay, so I've got 1, 2, 3. I got 5 people on the committee.
Law, judge, I got 3. Law, superintendent. I said DPW, purchasing.
I got DPW.
Law.
I got OPED. I've got OPED assistant director.
And Rory Casey.
Okay.
So it should be 7. Law, DPW, Purchasing.
There's three from OPED?
Yes.
Oh, okay, I missed one then. All right, another person, all right. Okay, we're joined by Counselor McGee, welcome, Mr. President. Okay, so the seven-person committee, and so the seven-person committee reviews it, and then at that, once the committee reviews it, at that point is put forward to the mayor?
Right, right. So on the mechanics of it, the mayor delegates a committee to review this in full and provide their recommendations. Then we issue a recommendation to the mayor. He can love it, hate it, anything in between. In this case, he accepted the recommendation, concurred with them, and then submits it to the council.
Great, thank you. Any questions from Marcos on these points right now, the kind of the background, how we got to this stage? I don't see any questions.
I may have missed something, Mr. Chair, on it.
Yeah,
250. Yeah, Clovis, yeah, I assume we're going to get to the heart of that, Mike, in a minute, but, okay. So no, Marcos, thank you.
I just wanted to add to Marcos that as part of the review process, there was a pretty extensive review criteria. I would estimate about 6 different questions that every reviewer would answer those, and they were compiled, and that was part of the process that led to the eventual recommendation.
Oh, thank you, John.
And the
Okay,
criteria is listed in the RFP, so everyone knows how they're going to be judged. And so we're asking them, demonstrate how you meet, tax revenue, or demonstrate how you have experience doing development, demonstrate
well, I think
what kind
it's
of
kind of
project you have,
telling here
demonstrate your budget.
that the highest bidder, I mean, clearly they're head and shoulders as far as everybody else, but the highest bidder went ahead and kind of ignored the RFP. So if the RFP says, we're not really interested in a major pharmacy chain or an automotive support retailer, and they went ahead and proposed that anyhow.
Well,
That's
they didn't really propose anything, and so what that, I can't say categorically what they were thinking. We have enough information for me to provide you my opinion, which is that not wanting to lie, they didn't provide any information.
Well, you're saying that they highlighted their experience as recurring developers for major pharmacy chains and for automotive support retailers. So it's reasonable to infer from the sizable price proposal and the high costs associated, First Hartford's plan likely involved a pharmacy as an anchor tenant, is what you go ahead and say. So, and their proposal is $1.25 million. So that's where we are. And we kind of made it clear that we weren't really well, at that time, that this particular body wasn't really interested in having a drugstore pharmacy chain at that intersection. So, I can see where you went. Okay, Marco. So now we have before us so I have recommendation from Lori Belanger, submitted, and I filed it on your behalf, that the City Council, in accordance with 30B, vote to accept an offer from Colvest Limited to purchase the land located 1575 Northampton Street for $250,000. So the parcel contains approximately 2.94 acres. It is zoned R1A, single-family residence, and it's a former Lynch School, as we all know. The mayor has an acceptance letter attached to this, and I have the mayor's acceptance letter here, which I'm not going to read in full. I'll skim it later, so we can sort of get to the heart of this. Marcos, how do you want to proceed with Colvest? Do you want them to come in? Do you want them to? Do you want to speak for them?
I think that would be valuable to the committee for you to hear directly from them and have a presentation. They're ready to do that. That's why they're here today.
Okay, so I think that makes the most sense too, Marcos. So we have to sort of arrange some microphones, and I see an easel. Yeah, John, do you want to? John, do you want to go to the? Sure. you know what? Why don't you put it right in the middle? And so, I'm just gonna speak to, Ryan's running the cameras. Ryan has a camera right above my head, and Ryan can kind of zoom in on it, and he can zoom in on you. Gentlemen, I'm gonna have you introduce yourselves in a minute. What you're gonna have to do is, if you have to stand by the easel, which I imagine you do, you can use the microphone and the desk to the furthest one. Oh, okay. Oh, great. So make sure that's on. Way to go, Marcos.
Good job.
Way to go, I'll tell you.
Not my first rodeo, you know?
Normally I like to give my Monty Hall joke, but I can't do it now because you got a good microphone, so darn it. So I'm gonna have you introduce yourself and your team, and then we'll take it from there, okay?
My name is Peter Lapointe. I'm a project manager for the Colvest Group. We're a real estate developer with offices at 1259 East Columbus in Springfield. I have with me this evening Frank Colicino, who is the principal of the Colvest Group, and Bill Maxwell, who's our director of design. We are, as I said, commercial developers, owners, and managers. Over the last 20 years, we've developed a variety of commercial projects, no residential, in Rhode Island, Connecticut, and Massachusetts. Just in this immediate area, we've developed a variety of retail, medical office, regular office, restaurant, and other commercial uses in all of the surrounding towns. We are proposing to redevelop the Lynch School site for a multi-building, multi-tenant complex. The larger building would be about 18,000 square feet and house 6 to 8 tenants. The smaller building would be a standalone bank. The site plan includes a primary entrance off Northampton Street, Route 5, and secondary entrances off Anniversary Drive and Route 141, which would be a right-in, right-out entrance. The project would obviously require a zone change to accommodate the commercial use, as well as site plan approval and Mass DOT access permits, both because we're on Route 5 and because you're on Route 141. I think the proposal is a fairly straightforward commercial development that would require the demolition of the school, a remediation of hazardous materials within the school, and all of the site plan and utility and drainage upgrades that that parking area would require.
Okay, first of all, Mr. Point, thank you, welcome back. I remember you were here last year or year and a half ago. Mr. Colicino, welcome. Mr. Maxwell, welcome. Well, don't leave town yet. Just don't, keep your microphone handy. So I think we're going to have a few questions about this, and so for right now, you've possibly so you have 2 buildings. You've probably identified one tenant, I would imagine, for the bank, since you specified a bank in there, and for the retail, 18,000 square feet. So let me ask you the first question. If all your dreams came true and this all passed and so everything happened, what would your expectation be about breaking ground? No, strike that. What would your expectation be about the demo work that would be involved? Timeline on that. Then what would your expectation be about breaking ground, and then the construction timeline? Well, just pretend all your permits happened and all your dreams came true, and we're off to the races.
Got it.
I'm Frank Colicino. Thank you for having us here today. In answer to your question, once we got the zone change, or actually, once we signed an agreement, then received a zone change, then went to site plan approval, we would expect to start the demolition process probably within 30 to 60 days after that period. And Marcos went through the numbers pretty well in the beginning. The demolition and remediation, and there is a lot of hazardous materials in there. The numbers came in at a little over $1.5 million to remediate the site and to demo the site. So we would start that process within the 30 to 60 days after, well, probably we'd have to close right after site plan approval, so probably right after closing. And you would see progress on that pretty quickly. Once we got approval, we would start marketing the property. Right now, because we don't have control of the property, it's hard to market it. It's hard to get tenants interested in the property without control. When you tell them that it needs a zone change, it needs site plan approval, tenants, at least the good tenants that you want there, will tell you, once you get that, why don't you call us? And that's what we've experienced in our other sites. And so we would start marketing, and hopefully we would start identifying some tenants to come in during that process.
Okay, so just to help me out, Mr. Cochino, so to remediate and demo, that process would take about how long, do you think?
The remediation and demo, I believe, would take 6 to 8 weeks, wouldn't it?
Minimum.
Yeah, it's
The abatement itself, they'd have to create a whole building containment and
What's the
basically,
point? Just pull, that microphone is live, so pull that a little bit closer to you or sit up
All
closer
right.
to it, yeah.
for the abatement itself, they'd have to make the whole building a containment, and they would work within the building, bag the asbestos-laden material, if you did it that way, bag the asbestos-laden material, and that would go out as a hazardous waste. If you didn't do it that way, which would be a lot like the church in Springfield, it's wholesale demolition.
well, what we then also, you have to make sure that no asbestos fibers left the site. I mean, there's a whole protocol to doing this. You'd see a bunch of people in spacesuits with you've seen them. I mean, they actually have all of the.
Mike wears one at city council regularly, so we're used to that. So, so 6 to 8 weeks. Yeah, I'm just trying to get. I'm not trying to get to drill down into the real mechanics of it. But
So 6 to 8 weeks for the remediation process, and then the demo after that, we're probably talking another 6 weeks
okay.
of doing that. So I think that demo and abatement process, I would say probably around 3 to 3.5 months.
Yeah.
And then after that, it's a question. So now we've got. And so, Mr. Cochino, I think you know where I'm going here. I mean, if you don't, I'm going to lay it out super clear for you. So now we've got what was an iconic corner of the city of Holyoke for generations of school children. Now, and the name John J. Lynch, eviscerated. Well, we'll talk about that in a minute. And we've got this huge, I know we've got an anniversary field there where a lot of us played as children and all that, a lot of ball games there, but anniversary field will still be there. But we've now got this whole corner gone, flat. So nothing is there. Now what happens?
Once it's demoed,
Yes.
then we would start construction of the buildings.
Oh, okay. So the thinking on your end, which I'm glad you said that, is now you've invested a certain sum of money, which is now you're getting close to $2 million at this point, and so you've invested a certain sum, and we thank you. So none of us are here pretending we're not grateful. Okay, so let's just be real about that. So you've invested. You do note it, Counselor. So you invested a certain sum, and so now the thinking is that you would start construction of the larger retail building first, a smaller bank building first, or simultaneously, and how long will that take?
We would probably do the site work first. And
Okay.
the site work would entail all your grading, all your drainage, your curb cuts, so you do all of that first, and that is, not knowing what's in the ground, which I'm assuming that we don't find anything that was buried years and years ago. I would say that,
4 months.
we probably would end up starting construction, I would say probably in the springtime of 19.
Okay,
Because you're going to go through, if you take a look at the timeline, here we are, we're in May already, tomorrow's May 1st. So now you're between the zone change approval, site plan approval. I think that probably takes us to the fall. And now we have to deal with DOT, which is the state. And DOT they're not the quickest agency. They don't do things quickly, so you've got to go through that process with them. And there'll be off-site improvements. There'll be, our folks are going to be, our civil engineers, our traffic engineers, they're going to be working throughout that site plan approval process to get it done. So I'm thinking that we're not going to be able to get a site plan approved until fall or even late fall. So then effectively, we're not going to start construction in the wintertime, so we would wait until springtime, which probably is this time next year.
and construction takes, for a project this size,
Probably 8 months.
8 months. Okay, Councilor Valentin?
Thank you. So I was, thank you for being here tonight. I was one of the councilors who voted in favor of Lynch being redeveloped and putting it back on the tax rolls. However, there were a number of my colleagues that wanted it to go back to the school department, and there is a lot of emotional value with this building, which I need to be frank and say I do not have personally. I never attended Lynch. I never played on Anniversary Field. I was in Puerto Rico, so that was a little far for me. So one of the feedback on this mic is awful. One of the feedback and the comments that I received from my constituents, and this is not in my ward, but from folks that are, that go by this intersection quite a bit, was that because there was such an emotional value to Lynch, that the compromise that they could feel comfortable with was there any way that the facade of the front of Lynch School could be, quote unquote, saved? And so I appreciate the breakdown that you've shared with us in terms of the asbestos and the cleanup and everything. And so I just want to make sure that on the record that we know that in your interpretation of all the information that's been presented and the assessments, that there is absolutely no way that there could be any type of facade or any type of, let's call it emotional value, visuals that could be preserved in your opinion for this type of project, because then that's what I can communicate back to the folks that get upset about this. And so does that make sense?
I totally agree. I totally know where you're coming from. Mm-hmm. And we have experienced that very same thing when we developed property in Springfield on East Columbus Avenue. It was St. Joseph's Church. And St. Joseph's Church had been closed for 10 years. There was a fire in the church. There was a hole in the building. I mean, literally, there was a hole in the roof. So it was exposed to weather for 6 years or better. And yet, when we came in and purchased the property from the Springfield Diocese, there was an outpour of there was sadness that the building came down. And so what we did in that particular case is we totally understood where the community was coming from. So we took some architectural elements from the church and incorporated them in the building. We took the shield that was there and put it up in the lobby of our building so anybody coming in could see the shield. And we put a little description of what was on the site and a picture of St. Joseph's that was there. And we took all of the things in the church, all the pews, all the religious artifacts that were there. We donated them to nonprofits. We didn't sell them, we donated them. We wanted to make sure that all of the nonprofits got first pick, and all of the other churches in the area, actually of any denomination, if they wanted to come in. So we were sensitive to that. When we opened the building, the bishop came in and just commented on the architectural elements that we incorporated in the building. We took some lamps that the old church had. We refurbished them at quite an expense, and we put them back up on the building. So we would do something similar to that for this, if that would help.
Thank you. That was very helpful, and I think people would be very happy to hear something like that.
We also, by the way, it was interesting. We made a statement to the community saying, if you wanted a memento of the church, we would be happy to provide bricks, and we put some bricks together with a memento of St. Joseph's Church. Mm-hmm. So it was interesting. I got a call from a resident of Springfield, and he said, geez, I've heard that you were giving away bricks. You know, I'm doing a patio. Can I have a bunch of bricks? I said, no, that's not what we meant. So that's, but you know, that's what we did.
Well, thank you. I really do appreciate that explanation. And perhaps because you are based in Springfield, you understood the importance of the community instead of being a developer that was perhaps, you know, thousands and thousands of miles away. Which leads me to my second follow-up question very quickly is, what is that building now, and the one that you were talking about, like what does it house now, what does it look like, and what are some other projects that you've done in the last 10 years that we would recognize, just to have a sense of your work?
The building now is at 1259 East Columbus Avenue. It's a 3-story Class A office building. There's a bank located on the first floor. Our offices are on the second floor. We have a company called Value Options that is on the second floor as well. And on the third floor, MGM rents the entire third floor for their HR department.
Okay, great. Any other project you want to share with us?
We're currently doing a project in Springfield. We're coming towards the tail end where it's on Boston Road, and we bought a property that was, you know, it had blacktop there for years. I mean, it looked terrible. We came in, cleaned it up. Then we added. We built the Med-X. Med-X is one of the urgent care companies, and we built a 5,000 square foot building for Med-X, and then just recently we added an additional 9,000 square foot building there, and that we're completing right now, where we have as tenants Sprint. We have a new company to the area called Batteries and Bulbs. I don't know if you've ever heard of them. Batteries and Bulbs is any battery that you want to buy. Any battery that you need, they have it. They have any bulbs that you have, they have it. They fix phones, they fix cell phones, they fix iPads. If you know, with the new cars, they're keyless. If you lost your key to your car, you go there and they replace the key to the car. I mean, it's a pretty neat concept. And we have Moe's Mexican food restaurant.
Well, thank you.
Thank you so much.
And Northampton is not too far away. Anybody familiar with the Bay State Hospital up there on King Street?
Yep.
We there again was a derelict property, had been vacant for over 20 years. It was an old supermarket, an old Price Chopper, that we came in and gutted the entire building, and we put in, Bay State is now in 80% of the building, and we put a bank. It seems like banks follow us. But you can never have enough banks. And then we have a Firestone tire store that we inherited, but you know, they ended up sprucing up the building and enlarging it and just redoing the entire thing. Then just recently, maybe in the last couple of months, we purchased the concrete plant up in Northampton, which was right next door to our facility there. And for those, if you've seen it, it was really not that good looking. It didn't look great. So one thing that we did, once we closed on it, we immediately went in and tore down the concrete plant. And because it was just unsightly. And we leveled everything, cleaned it up, so now at least it looks nice. And now we're going into, we're developing a plan, and once that happens, we'll go in to see the town and go through site plan approval.
Thank you very much.
Councilor McGivern?
Thank you, Councilor Bartley. I have a question to follow up on Councilor Bartley, but I just want to make a quick comment on your answer to Councilor Valentine. And I think you have a tremendous amount of insight to the way you answered the question, the way you talked about the property in Springfield. And just example here in Holyoke, we have a lot of historical buildings that are in bad shape. And unfortunately, we try to save them and try to put them into reuse as quickly as possible. 3 recent ones that came down at the city's expense and are now vacant lots include the Essex House, the Old Bud, and a place on the corner of Pine and Dwight called the Rainbow Club. And each of them had some value to the bricks to people who remembered the history of each of those buildings. The most popular brick by far was not the Old Bud, but it was the Rainbow Club. And if anybody needs one, we got a couple hanging around somewhere, but Mike Sullivan can get you the Old Bud bricks real easy. It's important to people, I think, to understand that, and it's important to do what we can to save history in the right way, but it's also important to go forward. This land is valuable, and your proposal, including the demolition and taking on the demolition of a very difficult project, sells me outright. And the proposal that you want to put there, I think, is fair. It is, it's your desire, it's the private sector, and that's how money speaks, and that's how development takes place. Now, Councilor Bartley had some really good questions, and you answered the timeline, but my question wants to take it one step further, and we put reverter clauses on all sales. What is the reverter clause for this project?
It's the same as it was with Frontier before. We did not have to exercise a reverter on Frontier because they did not close on the sale. So we have the same conditions on the closing. As he described, we would require all permits to happen before a closing happens. I'm going by memory. I believe it's a scaled reverter. So understanding the magnitude of the financing for a project like this that would involve demolition first. If we were to put a dollar reverter on it, I don't think anyone would take the risk on the project, right? So something, we work with developers if something goes wrong, but if they're on a tight timeline of 2 years and then something goes wrong out of their control, then suddenly they're out, $2 million before they get to do anything. So we have a scaled reverter. It's something like 90% first and 75% and 50%. So it's like the longer you take, and the more money you've spent, you get compensated more. I'm not sure I'm explaining that right. John, would you happen to have that document? So this is similar to what we did with One Cabot and what we had done with Lynch School before with Frontier.
You're accurate, Marcos. It is a scaled reverter clause.
Could you describe the percentages and the timelines?
It's, if development doesn't start within 6 months, it's a 90% of the sale price. If it doesn't happen in 1 year, it's 75%. And within 2 years, 50%.
So the longer you take as a developer, the harder it hits your pocket. But there's still, it's not a complete loss.
I appreciate that, and I understand the scale of this project. It's got to be difficult because the demolition costs alone, are a big percentage of the project itself. So when the demolition is done, what assurances do we have that this project is going forward that's proposed? Reverter's not just about, the value of the land, it's also about what is being proposed to be developed on the land.
Well, when they sign this, they're signing a contract that they're going to do the development, right? And we could have, not that we can, that we will have that as an exhibit to the closing documents. So they're going to be bound by the agreement that they're signing with the city.
And the city would have the right to take back the property if this development doesn't go forward.
Well, remember, the reverter is meant to avoid speculation with land, so that we're not selling something and then nothing happens. But
Also, if we're not selling
than that,
something and someone resells the land itself or resells the value of the property.
Correct.
As opposed to the city being at least in a partnership with what's being put on the property.
Correct. And so what I'm saying is that beyond the reverter, we also have other remedies under the law to enforce a contract.
Okay. Is that in writing in the contract?
Yes, the way the RFP is written is that would be an exhibit to any closing that we would do on the sale. So we would have the rights under that contract to enforce it.
Thank you.
Council Sullivan?
Thank you. In your demolition estimates, how many estimates did you get on that to come up with that number?
One,
One? Can you, who was it?
it was Associated Building
Associated.
Records. I mean, we've used them in a number of our projects, and we trust them. They're very reputable. They're from the area. They've done work for probably just about every municipality in Western Mass and beyond. Typically, what we like to do is people that we like to use the same people, because if we take care of them, they take care of us, and it's.
Don't get me wrong, we had another contractor drop a building right here in the middle of High Street. So I was just wanted to make sure they weren't one of the ones you were counting on for an estimate. They could come in a little low to get the job, I guess, but.
Well, just to also provide as background information, when the city independently got quotes for the demolition, back when we were still under contract with Frontier, we got, I think it was 2 quotes. One was,
One was about 1.6 million, and one exceeded 2 million, and those were prior to the prevailing wage requirement also. So the numbers mentioned earlier were consistent for the private market. The city demolition cost is much more expensive due to the other requirements.
and we did that back then because it was, the asbestos that was found within the walls was a surprise to everyone. We weren't, and that's why you do the due diligence, but also it was a shock because we knew it was going to be a significant hit to the project. So we have, separate from what they've done, and they had no reason to know that we had done this, but it pans out with the numbers that we had seen.
Okay, the asbestos, you've mentioned this several times now, between the walls, is that vermiculite? Is that what we're referring to here?
Well,
It's some sort of, I don't remember what the substance is actually called, but maybe if I describe it for you, you'll know.
spray on stuff.
Yeah, it's either sprayed or painted on. It looks like a black thing between the two walls of the two rows of brick, right? So it's something to keep out moisture.
So it's a mastic, I would take it?
Yes.
And there's some spray stuff on some of the steel that's on there.
Right.
So, I mean, when you take that stuff off, that's physically somebody just having to scrape it off.
I'm very familiar with it, so that's all right.
Sorry, okay.
So my other question would be, so you've got the other building in the back with just unidentified tenants, and the zone change goes through, everything goes through. You know, we're 2 years down the road, and you're having a hard time, and along comes a big national pharmacy chain offering to take the whole 18,000 square feet.
Well, we wouldn't, you know, we understand your concern about that, and we've already agreed that we wouldn't do that. And so we understand it. I don't think that will, I don't think that will happen. You know, it's, we understand that that's not what you want.
As tempting as it may be for any private sector person to do that, I'll just reiterate, the terms of the RFP are very clear that a pharmacy or auto use cannot happen there, and that would be a condition on the closing, so it could not happen.
So that can actually be a condition on the closing?
It will be.
Okay, because we're looking at a $1 million difference to make sure it doesn't happen in the purchase price. I'd hate to see it happen after the fact, so.
Okay, Councilor Weinerson Burgos?
So I'm looking at the pictures and I'm noticing a lot of similarities, and I'm hoping that with the design in mind, that the design be specific and something special for Holyoke. I want it to be very, very different.
Yeah, just understand that what's special to you might not be special
Well-
to Councilor Bartley. So if we can get an agreement.
Right.
That would
I
be,
need Councilor
that would be
Jordan
great.
here.
Right.
I wish he was here. Oh, I would have fun with that one.
Thank you.
But it's going to fall flat without him being here. I have I want to follow up on a couple things. Marcos and I had a very good pre-meeting at my office, whenever that was. Marcos, I don't remember what it was. Okay, thank you. Just in a whirlwind. Sorry, buddy. An excellent meeting, and I like to give credit where credit's due, and so one of the things we you know, I didn't go to John J. Lynch School, but now having toured the building twice, I mean, I said it many times, I'm blown away by that building, just how great a school that had to have been for the students that went to school there. It had to have been a phenomenal place. And so the name John J. Lynch can't disappear. So Marcos and I were conferring about that. And one of the things we did discuss was you know, possibly renaming the road, I guess. I think it's Anniversary Way, Marcos. I think that's what it is. So I thought that might be something that we'd want to entertain, renaming that road after John J. Lynch in some kind of way. So Marcos and I talked about that. So I want to give Marcos credit for that as well. So that's on the historical point. On the business side of it, your company, and we remember Mr. LaPointe was here when Councilor Jordan was on this committee. No, on the ordinance committee, I'm sorry, that was an ordinance meeting. So your company has control of, you know, owns the property across the street, the Rite Aid. And so now we're looking to purchase, you're looking to purchase across the street. So there's two things. One is, what's going to happen with Route 5? I mean, that's kind of we were really hopeful to have Mass DOT in here tonight, but that would have been although this meeting would have gone till late hours, and I don't want Counselor Sullivan staying up late, so this would have gone really late, but, so we'll reschedule them for another time. So that's what we used to do with Counselor Jordan, but I don't have that foil anymore. It's killing me. So Route 5 has got to be a consideration, and I need to hear a little more about that. And then, as maybe if you want to give a Reader's Digest version as to, what is the company's plans with Rite Aid, and I mean, those of us old enough to remember the Pay Saver and those little businesses around there. I mean, you're going to have both sides of a very prominent thoroughfare, and I'd like to hear your intentions going forward.
Yeah, I remember Pay Saver, and I remember the Dairy Mart that was there before, and then before then it was a mini food basket.
That's right.
So with
And Astro Video, we are.
well, I didn't know, I knew that recently, but I do remember the site. With that site, Rite Aid has a long-term lease there. Their lease doesn't expire until, I think it's 2020 or 2021. There's really nothing we can do about that. The convenience store that's there, their lease expires at the same time. And then we have the ATM that's there, the Bank America ATM. Their lease expires, I think, in 2023. So that property, as of right now, we're sort of in limbo, and because of the leases that are there. So once those leases expire, we'll look at it at that time and see what's happening in the area, and then we'll react accordingly. Our developments are we're not flippers. We don't buy property and then just flip it to somebody else. We typically develop for our own account, and we keep them, and we maintain them. We're not too far away. We're not hard to find. So that's the story on the parcel across the street.
Then Route 5? I mean, Route 5, that part of Route 5 between Hamden and Dwight is a bit of a cluster bomb. I think we might be able to agree on that, just the way that roadway is set up with the way cars kept to cross over and things of that nature. So what?
But didn't you say that DOP has a plan there?
Well, Mass DOT may or may not have a plan, but we didn't hear about it tonight, but hopefully we'll hear about it down the road. But I think your company is going to possibly have an impact on its plans going forward. I mean, so I see your design coming off of East Hampton Road, Route 141. So on the eastbound lane, so there's one way in, a dedicated left turn in, and a dedicated way out, and so I see that. Now, the Northampton Street side, I see one. I mean, it's kind of a tight little corner right there, so it's a really tight corner where you are. So the plan is to what? Have a traffic light? Is it?
No, I think a traffic light would not go here, only because it's too close to the traffic light at 141.
No, I guess I meant okay, so.
And then you have just so you've got a traffic light here.
I'm not suggesting anything. I'm just trying to move the conversation forward. What's the thinking for the roadway?
I think that we haven't studied it enough to give you a recommendation today as we speak. I think that's one of the things that we have to look at.
Oh, no doubt. Okay, I just want to hear if you had any preliminary thoughts on that.
And that's part of the site development process.
No question. I wanted to throw on the table, Mr. Palacino, because if you don't have a clear answer, then that's
right.
That's fair.
Now there might be some offsite improvements that need to be made, and so all those questions will be answered through that process.
Yeah, and my last question is, you have a really prominent abutter to the west, which is Anniversary Field. So that is, again, just an important ball field for a lot of us growing up, and I've heard from countless people in the community. I mean, first of all, none of us are really happy about losing the basketball facility that's there, but Marcus and I kind of talked that out, and we've got some, maybe 2 other potential schools coming online, and that's going to have to be part of a future school design. There's a lot of demand for it, Ms. Calcino. There's a lot of, I mean, you must, all you guys must have played. So it's one of these, you hate to lose a facility. I mean, so we don't want to lose it. We're not going to lose Anniversary Field. We're restricted. Article 97. No, you can't. It's Article 97.
Understand that.
But it's in a butter. So we're hopeful, or I'm hopeful, that there'll be something really appropriate along your property line, on the property line.
Absolutely. We're not going to embarrass Anniversary Field.
So that's one of the, that's what I just,
And I think that, I think that with the traffic that goes to the field, I think it would help the retail facility that we're planning. And so I think they can work well in together. And
Okay.
we'll make sure that the transition is tasteful, and will look nice.
Okay, can't do any more than that. Oh, other questions?
Last quick question.
Councilor Valentin?
Thank you. This is in addition to the can we save the facade? The president is acting out. In addition to the question about the facade, the second question that I'm sure we all get is, well, what tenants are going there? I want Trader Joe's, I want Starbucks, right? And the list starts. And of course, followed by I don't want, and that's how we got to this point of the pharmacy and the vehicle stuff. But is there anything that you can share with us today based on your experience with other properties and your hunches, whatever you want to call it, that we can bring back to our constituents as of today? Is there anything that you would like to share?
All I can tell you is that we have built a bunch of Starbucks throughout Western Mass and Connecticut. The last Starbucks we built was in Ludlow, off Exit 7, off the Turnpike. So we know them. We've done business with them. It's when you have a site that needs a zone change, needs site plan approval, it's very difficult to get someone interested in the site. And I think one of the things that have made us successful as a developer is that we've always maintained our credibility. And when we go to a tenant and we say, look, we have a site, here's what it is, they have confidence that we can deliver. Until we get through the site plan approval process, that's when we start marketing. Mm-hmm. So I'm not sure, I hope I answered your question.
Well, and just please understand that I have to ask the question because we get asked this over and over again, who's going to move in there? And my answer is always, I have no clue because you don't either. And so I just want to make sure that I can, with certainty, say that.
But this is the development process.
Mm-hmm.
And I think a lot of people don't understand the process, and it's not abnormal not to know at this stage of the game.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much.
Councilor Solomon?
Thank you so much for coming down and giving us a better explanation of what you plan on doing here. And I'm the same way. I grew up there. I played ball there, went to school there. Keeping that feel of the neighborhood and that name, I believe, is important any way you can. And you stated that with the church that you talked about earlier. My question is, and this has been going on for a number of years, like I said, this property has sort of been just sitting there. And, I think a lot of people in the community want to see something happen, but something good happen there and to be worked out. And I know that's all part of the site plan review. My question is, what is a time, you stated a timeline about remediation and building and taking the building down, but what is the timeline that you would present this for the zone change to the city council, approximately?
As soon as we sign a formal agreement we would start that process. And for as long as it takes, I mean, I can't imagine it taking a long time to sign the agreement. Once we have that signed, we will start with the zone change process.
Okay, because I'm just thinking the timeline, and I mean, you stated everything, but to get this project going, here it is almost May, and we recess in the summertime. We have one meeting in the summer,
Just one meeting?
one full meeting in August,
When-
so,
in August.
yeah. The first Tuesday in August. So I'm just trying to get an idea, so we know in the
So if that's the case, my sense is that we'll probably go to that August meeting. Being May 1st right now, if we assume that we take, when is your council meeting for recommending the sale? Tomorrow. So assuming that goes favorable, then I would say that we're talking 30 to 45 days to get the agreement done. Marcos, is that right?
Yes.
Okay, and then then that brings us into mid-June. We're probably not going to make your June meeting, so I think we'd be on for August.
August, yeah. Okay, just to get an idea, that's good. I just get a feel for that for the people out there and to see what this is going, because it's been a long time for the people in the community to see what's happening, just to give an idea of the time frame, and that things do take time, but just we want everything done in a proper fashion, and so that we're aware of how everything is going as city officials.
Sure. Typically, right after you decide, you want it done tomorrow. I mean, that's just human nature. But I don't think anybody can move quicker than we can.
And thank you for your explanation and giving us the idea of the project and how long everything takes. So you're looking to, a year and a half down the road, even just to get it taken care of, and I appreciate that. Thank you.
Mr. Sullivan.
Yeah, I think Marcos could speed up that 30 to 45 days so we get it in for the June meeting. Get this
Well, just
get this project rolling.
just on that point, Marcos, so this is subject to site plan review?
Yes.
It is. It's subject to site plan review, a zone change, and a special permit for a drive-through.
Okay, so there's all sorts of, we're going to Mr. Colacino, Mr. LaPointe before us.
No, as well.
A lot of times, Mr. Maxwell as well. So, okay, when do they start? They start site plan review process simultaneously with the zone change application?
There's nothing that says that we couldn't. The applicant is at risk, and obviously the planning board isn't. If they were to approve a site plan, they would do a contingent on a zone change. So it's academic if there is no zone change. So it certainly could happen coterminously. With all the proper asterisks on it. If it's just a matter of signing the agreement and they want to proceed on submitting for the site plan review, that could probably happen in short order. No promises, but we could push for June. The issue is that usually a buyer wants to do at least some basic level of due diligence, title examination, that kind of stuff, while the agreements are being written. And we haven't talked about this in detail, so I'm just
Just to give you
ad-libbing
from
here.
the developer side, it probably is not practical to start those two at the same time, simply because we need to do so much work for that site plan review. We need to do so much studying. We've got to get our engineers up to speed. We've got the civil engineers, the traffic engineers. They have to go out, study the patterns. We have to do various
Well,
tests
Mr.
on the
Chair,
land.
I understand that. So my hope is that you would start site plan review first before you come in for.
But we wouldn't do that until we got zone change. I mean, that's just the right process. That's just the right timeline. The zone changes first, then site plan review.
Okay, and then, so we can make our vote on zone change contingent upon site plan review, or I don't think we can. And once we change the zone, they can take that vote and record it, and then.
They need a site plan review no matter what. They can't do the development in the current zone. Once the change in zone happens,
All right.
they definitely need a site plan review.
And then for
And they would definitely need a special permit from this body on the drive-through.
Oh, I realize that, and so that comes when?
The special permit probably simultaneous to the site plan review since we have a
Right.
location for it.
Okay, all right, that's,
I don't mean to speak for you.
No, that's
no,
accurate.
no, we've had a number of developers here, and that's my recollection. Councilman McGivern?
Thank you. First step, I think, or it sounds like, is that me? Sorry. First step, and it sounds like, the asking price that the mayor has agreed to and with the demolition cost being tied into it is more than fair, and the development of an important piece of property is something we all like to see. On the zone change, I have an idea of how we can push the zone change and get, closer to site plan review, is if you can get the petition in by our June meeting, we can do joint meetings with the planning board, something that, might be a little bit novel. Do those joint meetings with the planning board, get both board bodies together answering all questions in one public hearing, and then we could push it forward for a final vote on the zone part for the August meeting. That trips the site plan review because now they can spend the money. The hardest part is the zone change, but the most money is, besides demolition, is the site plan review. So developer's not gonna do site plan review till they know they have the zone. So I'm only asking maybe the planning board would consider doing those joint meetings with us.
That's, no, that's, I understand where you're coming from, Joe. That's Councilman McGivern's and mine, our inside joke, although we say it in public forums all the time, but nobody's,
Sounds very
No joke to a developer when you have to go to 10 different public hearings because the planning board doesn't want to work with us anymore.
Now, that's business friendly too.
well, and again, that's a separate committee, but the good news is I'm on the ordinance committee as well, so that's the good news for you, Mr. LaPointe. Okay, so, Mr. Calcino, thank you for presentation. Mr. LaPointe, thank you. Ms. Maxwell, thank you. John, thank you. Marcos, thank you. All right, so I think we're gonna, first we'll need a motion.
Motion to approve the sale? Is that what we're doing? What we're phrasing it?
Yeah, motion to accept the offer.
To accept the offer. Motion to accept the offer.
Second.
Okay, so we have a motion to accept the offer. Now, the offer is, and so there's all sorts of contingencies on here, right? So everybody knows that. But we'll just say it's contingent on a lot of things. The offer is to purchase 1575 Northampton Street, also known as Lynch School, for $250,000. It is not the highest bid, it is the fourth highest bid, but we reviewed all that with our earlier discussion. I think that we had a pretty robust review with Ms. Calcino, and I think every counselor here asked a question or made a comment at that point. Any other counselors want to make another comment at this point on the board? No, hearing none. On the motion, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None. Okay, so our recommendation is to recommend the offer price to be accepted by the Holyoke City Council of $250,000. We realize there's a series of contingencies on there, Mr. Calcino. The City Council will meet first and third Tuesday of each month, so we next meet tomorrow night at 7 o'clock. There's no reason for you to attend, but you're welcome to attend. It's a public meeting. So there's that, okay? Gentlemen, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Councilor McGivern, what's our policy with the map? Does that have to?
If it's a public hearing, we have to keep it.
Okay.
It's not a public hearing, so
This is not a public hearing.
we can get that. When we do the zone change, we'll get a,
That'll be, that's a different animal. Well, it might be, well, take your easel. Times are tight, but I don't think they're that tight. I mean, all right,
Thank you. Have a good night.
all right.
And you did a nice job with that third floor of MGM. I was there for their open house thing. It looks great. Yeah, the offices.
Okay, so let me just. Okay, so that takes us right through to number 7.
Motion to take item 7 off the table?
Second.
Thank you. On the motion, take it off the table. In favor? Aye.
Aye.
Motion is Order that OPED, Marcus Merrill, meet with the council to discuss A, compliance of various pilot recipients, payment in lieu of taxes, and B, status of Hartwell/Wind development projects. Council Sullivan.
Yep, thank you. You want to start, Marcos, or you want me to be more specific on the pilots?
However you'd like.
Mike, go ahead. Why don't you go ahead, Mike?
Yeah, well, I did see, I got an email today regarding the Mount Tom Solar. You want to go ahead and expound to the rest of the group on that, or?
Oh, I'll expound on the rest of that, because that was my condition we put on there.
Okay.
But let's before I expound that, let's get to the heart of your order first, if that's what.
Well, Mount Tom Solar and Aegis were the two main ones, and any others you can update us on. The heart of the order is really this: that we've got all these pilot programs. Some of these companies have received significant incentives from the city and tax deferred taxes and stuff like that, and I want to make sure they're living up to their commitments.
Sure. No, fair question. And so, and I was thrown off initially by the order because and we talked informally about this on Friday. Pilots per se, the Mount Tom Solar does have a pilot. The Aegis project doesn't have a pilot per se. I know it's a small technicality. They have a tax incentive. But they're not taking advantage of the tax incentive yet. They have to meet. So for Aegis, they actually have to meet the conditions of the whole conditions of the development before they're not subject to the taxes. So right now they're paying taxes on the properties, right, for Aegis. And in Aegis's case, they switched their engineering and design firm. For whatever reason, and I won't go into it, they didn't feel comfortable with the team that they had in place. The recommended approach for the access was a lot more expensive than they had anticipated. So they started all over with a new design and build team. From my last conversation with them, they seem to be now looking deeper into building new, an option that would actually take down the remaining structure and having a new building not merely on the same property but actually connected to the other building. But they haven't made a final decision, so that's the big pending item there. But meantime, they are paying full taxes on their property.
Is that on both properties? Because
on both properties, they're both privately owned, and they're not. It hasn't been activated because they have to comply in order for it to be activated. They are. I will say they, as part of the cleanup, they contractually inherited a $400,000 debt on the property with interest, and they've made every payment to date, substantial payments. On the Mount Tom Solar, the pilots, just like with other pure solar development, is meant to clarify the murkiness of whether these projects are taxable or not. And so we do pilots on these just like throughout the state to make sure that there is predictability with regards to tax payments. So they are making the payments to the city. They have not made the entirety of the plantings though, which is I think what you're referencing. And they're on schedule to plant that this year. It's still a question of when this year they will do it. They've proposed that it would be, I guess, best for landscaping reasons to wait until the fall. But the city is pushing back on that and saying now's a season as well to put those plantings in. And if they fail, you can plant them again. But you should have done this already, so go ahead and plant them.
Yeah, now that's right. So we had Councilor Sullivan, Mr. Cody, Mr. Perez, and Mr. McManus. We had a meeting a few weeks ago, and we brought this up. And Mr. Cody said he would follow up, and he did follow up. So that's much appreciated. And that's something I insisted on the first round. I didn't get my way. But I predicted that night when I lost that vote, that they would come back, and they did. And then fortunately, I got the committee and the full city council to go along with me to put that condition on there. But it hasn't been complied with by any stretch. So it looks like there's a little bit of hope in that regard. So
The building commissioner has made it clear that if they don't start complying, they will be issued fines.
right. So that's helpful. Mike, follow up?
Yeah, if somebody doesn't comply, can we force them back in to renegotiate the pilot?
Good question. I'm not
That's
sure.
a good question. Well, we don't really put a timeline on. I mean, I don't think I put a condition on there. Other than maybe I said a reasonable amount of time.
The pilot probably has
I don't think I
provisions.
specified it.
The pilot probably has provisions that don't allow one party to unilaterally get out of it. So I'd have to look at that further. I would say that the building commissioner has the ability to fine, I believe, up to $300 per violation per day. So
That would add up.
maybe every tree is a violation. I mean, I don't know how creative the building commissioner wants to get every day. So there are other ways of leveraging this.
Okay.
Mike, you all set?
Yeah, well, can you give us an update also on the wind development?
Yes, so this is exciting developments over the last week. So 216 Appleton Street, which is also known as the former Far Alpaca Mill, it sits between the police station and the first level canal on Appleton Street. It looks like a pretty long building that starts on Appleton and ends almost at Cabot. It's actually a series of six connected buildings. The city transferred it to the Redevelopment Authority a couple of years back, and the Redevelopment Authority negotiated an agreement with Wind Development, which is the biggest housing developer in the state. I would say it's probably true. And so through that agreement, the Redevelopment Authority, the first step in this project, which will be what we're estimating to be a $40 million project, is accumulating the historic tax credits. It's what takes the longest time in tax credits, the state ones. The federal ones are kind of an automatic as soon as you accumulate the state ones. But through the Department of State, they kind of give these out in chunks over time. So we always knew going into it that it was going to take at least 2 years, if not more. We are behind on that just because we haven't gotten our tax credit allocations until now. There are three rounds per year. In the first round of 2018, which closed in January, we were just notified that we got our first historic tax credit allocation of $300,000. At the same time, we're submitting already the second round. So this week, I believe it goes in. By precedent, once you get your first historic tax credit allocation, that's when the doors open. You start getting allocations every round. The problem is cracking that first allocation. The project what the project needs is about $2 million in historic tax credits from the state. From the state side, it would be matched with federal tax credit dollars. Then it would go for low-income housing tax credits from the state, which would also be matched by the federal government. The goal is to do a 50-50 housing development, so about 100 units, about 50% income restricted, and about 50% non-restricted, or as it's commonly known, market rate. As we design them, it's it may tweak up, it may tweak down. So I just say 100.
And the second round of the housing tax credits, how much dollar volume is that?
I don't have the pro forma with me, but that's a substantial amount of dollars. It's not going to the subsidies doesn't cover everything. There's private dollars that go in with this private debt, but I don't have the exact figure with me.
It doesn't have to be exact.
I could send it
5
in
million,
writing.
10 million, 20 million.
I honestly just don't remember. I could submit it in writing as a follow-up.
Okay. Well, my concern here is with all these tax credits and the timeline that it's taken, right? What's happening structurally with this building in the meantime? We've seen it happen, with the Essex House, the Armory. This one would go right in the canal. So, do we, have people checking on the inside interior condition? Is it deteriorating further? Is the building at risk during this whole process? I mean, if we're looking at this much of a timeline, if this is similar to, the Hoyle Catholic project and some of these other, this could take another 10, Victory Theater, this could take another 10, 15 years. What's going to happen with this building during that time?
Definitely an appropriate concern. I don't think we're on the 10 to 15 year timeline. However, so a couple of things. One, though, the wind development team has been in the building numerous times to make sure that it's still in the condition where it's well developable for them. From day one, and I'll be completely honest, I thought this building was in pretty bad shape. Not to the point of Parsons Paper when I walked through there, which was barely walkable, as you probably remember. But they were unfazed by it, and they had quite a number of projects. They said, well, it wasn't as bad as X, Y, or Z. There's some project they did called Pickle, and that's not as bad as Pickle. So they've been there numerous times, and so they're not worried about the degradation of the building. Although, in truth, as we both know, they don't get any better over time if they're not rehabbed. The other is the DPW has worked with us whenever we've had to, close off some part of the building. They've been able to provide that assistance. Not a high cost item, but just making sure that the doorways and entryways are closed off. So if there's anything you see, let us know, reach out, and we can do that. Unfortunately, the feasibility of, the redevelopment authority doesn't have a lot of assets, and so doing something like changing the entire roof of something that is so big would be cost prohibitive. So the best thing that we can do is we're working with the biggest and most efficient developer and getting these tax credits together and making really significant and transformative projects like these happen in Massachusetts.
Okay, so if I understand it correctly, wind development has gone through there to see what condition, has our own problem properties group been in there, or building inspector, see what's gone on this winter, how badly it's leaking, how much more deterioration and damage is happening?
We haven't gone as an entire committee in there. Members of the committee have from DPW, from my office. I honestly can't remember if Damien personally has been in there. If that's a concern, I can certainly invite Damien in. Okay.
Do you have any others you'd like to update us on, or as far as the pilots go and stuff?
Well, as I said in our conversation, because we don't administer pilots per se, I was unsure what the scope of the conversation was going to be in terms of tax credits. Two of the most recent ones, the Qubit, and I'm going by memory here because I didn't provide I wasn't able today to make a report for this. The Qubit got a commercial tax break for the first two floors, whereas the culinary school has opened, and a housing tax credit on the top. Those we're aiming to activate those now in July in the new fiscal year. So they just got they're about to get their certificate of occupancy in this fiscal year. So they've been paying their taxes on the valuations now, and that'll activate in the next fiscal year. Canal Galleries was the other one that we did that sort of split tax incentive. They secured their financing through Mass Development. The only reason why they haven't started is they're looking into another option, a different type of development. And so until they categorically exclude that second option, they're not starting the construction. So the pattern here is the tax incentive doesn't actually happen until the moment where the project is completed.
Okay.
Okay, I think we'll probably make a motion. This order's been complied with, but if you have, right, I'm sorry, Marcos. Hopefully we can make a motion this order's been complied with, but I would say that similar to what I think we started a pretty good, I hope we started a pretty good tradition with the receivership program, Marcos. So we heard from Crystal at the top of the meeting, and my order, which we're going to say complied with, my order is to have them come in every 6 months or so with an update. So I think with Mike's order here, though he doesn't say that, to come in every 6 months, I don't think that's a bad timeline. So perhaps next October, when we have Crystal or Paul here to talk about updates on receivership, perhaps we can hear from OPED relative to pilot and any other financial incentives the city has given to try to get some updates, because, we vote on these things. At the time I think of Mount Tom Solar when I go by there, and where are my arborvitaes? And but there's so many other projects on which we voted. Although that seems to have curtailed the last few years. We haven't voted on many. In fact, I don't think we voted on any the last couple of years. But I understand maybe there may be some coming down the road. So it would be helpful to hear from you on every 6 months.
Well, so I just want to differentiate between the different things, right? There's pilots, there's tax incentives, and then there's development projects that have conditions, that it's a regulatory condition.
So I threw them all into one huge pot, Marcos, for you to stir up and for you to come back with some kind of update. Is that feasible or is that not feasible?
It is. I think they may run on different calendars, though, and maybe that's something that we can follow up on and discuss. For example, tax incentives has an annual report. So if you were to ask me what was the hiring profile of company X in the last 6 months, I will not be able to tell you unless it was part of the annual report. So I can readily provide you an annual report on annual compliance for tax incentives. For pilot compliance per se, a pilot compliance, strictly speaking, have they just sent in the check? And then on the development performances, have they met their criteria for a certificate of occupancy? Yes or no, right? And then once they have their certificate of occupancy, unless there's some particular reason why it's been extended, or their temporary certificate of occupancies, then we're kind of done with it. At that point. And so Mount Tom Solar is one of those who have lingered, but it's not part of the pilot agreement. It's just they haven't met a part of their development agreement. So I know there's a little bit in the weeds, but I just want to make sure that when I'm providing the new information to the council, it's understood why and when I'm providing something, and not just because I'm holding it back.
Well, we can go into the weeds a little bit. What I'm going to do, I'm going to make a motion to amend his order now, and that we'll hear from you on a 6 months or thereabouts basis to get a kind of a regular update as not as needed, but as information becomes available. I mean, how else can I phrase it? As information becomes, so let me make that motion now. That I want to amend Councilor Sullivan's order to say that the director of OPED will provide an update to DGR committee every 6 months as information becomes available. Okay. Under discussion, Councilor Tallman.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up about the pilots. And Marcos, my main concern is with the TIFs. If that could, because, we vote on these, we probably haven't voted in a while, but, the part about the employment, we're employing 8 people and 4 people have to be from Holyoke or low income or whatever. That's important. And I know, depending on their reports, annual reports, that's something that I'm really interested in seeing. Because, I've been doing that for a number of years, but sometimes you don't see, did they really hire those 8 people or did they hire just 6? Because that's part of the TIF too, to get them to get the tax break for 5 years or whatever. So that's one thing I'm looking, to see if it's possible to bring that forward when you get it, as our chairman said, when you get it. Because over the years, we never really, unless we actually actively went to that company and said, did you hire these 3 people from, South Holyoke, or did you hire 4 people from Holyoke or wherever? We really see that come back to us. But that's one thing, and it may not be a lot of TIFs out there, but whatever ones that are ongoing, that's one thing I'd be interested in seeing.
Yeah,
appreciate
not a
that.
problem. We
Okay.
have that information we can provide.
Okay,
That's-
thank you.
That's a helpful point, Pete, Council Tallman, so I'd like to,
Yeah,
Mike,
and to Counselor Tallman's point, I mean, one of them we're looking out here, they agreed they were gonna try to use local contractors, they were gonna hire X number of people. On their project, they haven't hired one local contractor unless you consider people from Connecticut, Enfield, Southwick, local. So maybe, if you're from somewhere, some big city far away, that's local, but around here, that's not local.
okay, on the motion to amend, any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none. Okay, the motion's been, the order's been amended.
Motion that the order's been complied with?
I'll second that. Under discussion, Mike, you good to go? All right, everybody's good to go? Okay, on the motion, the order's been complied with, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, okay, so let me put complied with. Okay, number 10, the last one, if I could just make get a motion on that one to take it off the table, please? On the motion to take off the table, all in favor? Aye, okay. It's a communication from the Law Department regarding Counselor Bacon's request, thank you, Marcos, thank you, John, request for a legal opinion on whether a permit for a project can be extended beyond the initial approval by a board if the law has changed the approval process at the time of the request for extension. So we all received, and I have it before me, we received it in City Council, but a memorandum dated 2/27/18 from Crystal Barnes. I meant to take this up when Crystal was here, and yeah, this is, you want to talk about getting in the weeds with special permits. Let me just review this one more time. Once the committee will just give me a second. Okay, so this memorandum, which is not completely detailed, but it basically says, I mean, I don't have the Councilor Bacon in front of us. I think her intent was, we issue permits and nothing happens, and then they expire. Well, they in fact, they do lapse. Special permits do lapse after a period of time, unless the applicant has made what's called substantial use of the permit, or unless the board who issues the permits finds good cause to allow the extension. So I think we have our answer on here. I'm satisfied with the memorandum. I don't have the counselor here, but she didn't reach out to me, but I'm pretty sure she's on vacation. I'll back tomorrow, but I think we have our answer. I feel comfortable saying this is complied with.
Make a motion is comply with.
Second.
Yeah, so is that, and a discussion, hearing none on the motion, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay, so that's been, it's just a communication, we received it, and
Did it
so,
go to everyone or just to us as the committee members?
say that again, Counselor.
Just wondering if the memo from the law department went to the whole council or just to this committee? Because if it just came to us, then just to make sure that Ryan sends it to everyone.
It would have gone to the whole council.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, that's the only way, that's why, but that's a good point, because what happened at the last city council meeting relative to this order we had before us, right? So I got it I got an email to me. Well, we can't take it up unless it goes to the city council. So that's why I filed the late order amongst all the other late orders that we had at 2 meetings ago. So that's the only way it gets before us at any point. All right, so I think we're good to go. The last thing, it's not on the agenda, but the last one is, and I always like to add this, May 21st is our date for our next one. I'm going to try to get Mass DOT back here, 6:30, Pete. That's the time that seems to work for everybody, right? 6:30?
Yep.
Okay, so we will meet again May 21st at 6:30. Thank you, everybody. One more
Motion to
motion, I'll
adjourn.
do it.
Second.
On the motion to adjourn?
Aye.
All in favor? Aye. Okay, thank you. We're adjourned. Thank you.